Hello, Conscious Capitalist listeners. We're pressing pause on our regular episodes for a special summer series. As a part of our summer takeover of the podcast, we'll be exploring the future of the conscious enterprise and dissecting what it will take for businesses to thrive in a world of radical uncertainty. We'll also dive into how conscious capitalism can build more agile, innovative, and resilient companies, and how leaders can reinvent their mindsets. If that sounds like something you need right now or interested in exploring, don't forget to join us. And if the series would be of interest to other CEOs, colleagues, or friends, send them to Apple or Spotify. Welcome to this, our future-focused podcast, part of a 6-part podcast series that Conscious Capitalism is running over the summer, exploring the future of the conscious enterprise, why in a time of radical uncertainty, people-focused businesses are more important than ever. Today, we're going to be dealing with the topic of mindsets and people at a time when we're trying to make radical change occur, particularly on the AI side. So today I have with me as a co-host, Neha Sangwan, who is an internal medicine physician, engineer, CEO, and founder of Intuitive Intelligence. As an international speaker and a corporate communication expert, she empowers leaders and teams to address the root causes of stress, conflict, and burnout. Her methods use clear communication to heal both individuals and organizations. She consults for top companies like Google and Apple, and has delivered not one, not two, but 3 TEDx talks, and is the author of 2 books, Talks RX, and powered by her program called Bridging Me We World is designed to bridge both generational divides and support mental health. And today we're delighted to be joined by Christine Heckart. Christine is a 30-year veteran of the tech industry with a track record of creating new products and categories in both business and consumer marketplaces. Her latest company is Xapa World, is an AI app that provides a unique and modern way to deliver and consume personal improvement and professional development. Highly recommend that you go to Xapa.com and download the app and play with it and experiment with it, because I think it can have a real impact on how you develop leaders in your organization. Prior to founding Xapa, Christine was CEO of Scalyr, a data analytics company acquired by SentinelOne, and has held executive roles at Cisco, Microsoft, NetApp, and Juniper Networks. Christine, you've been on our podcast before. We welcome you back.
Thank you for having me back. And it's great to have Neha here as well.
Yeah,
Hi,
we've got
guys.
the A team today, so we're doing real well. And one of the things that I'd like to sort of set the context for us on today is that we're dealing in a period of radical uncertainty, whether it's geopolitical uncertainty about tariffs and supply chains, or whether it's the technological uncertainty that AI is bringing, that we're dealing with quantum computing, with nanotechnology, robotics, things that are going on in biotech and life sciences. This is a period where a lot of disruption is occurring and coming at us from many different angles. And I guess one of the things that we're really interested in at Conscious Capitalism is, in your view of leadership, Christine, you've been both a leader and you're someone now who's trying to help develop leaders. What are some of the new mindsets and capabilities that you think CEOs need to build to be able to manage through the complexity and uncertainty that we're facing in this environment?
It's a fabulous question. And to answer it, I would make 2 assumptions. One is that a lot of the people that are listening probably are already conscious leaders and they buy into conscious capitalism, because I think that is the fundamental starting point for success, particularly in changing environments. The second is that if somebody is a CEO that's listening, they probably have already seen a lot. Like if you take me, most of them are probably around my age. I've lived through the massive uncertainty and change of the internet era, and then the dot-com bust, and then the financial crisis, and then all the social upheaval, and then bam, 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 we got COVID, we got inflation, and now we're dealing with generative AI. So if you're a leader right now, you're probably pretty darn good yourself at adapting to change. And you're listening to this podcast, so you already buy in, at least in principle, to conscious capitalism. These are fundamentals for leaders today. What is happening right now is we are in a period of the highest rate of change in history, and that's been increasing for 30 years. It will continue to increase. What happens in change for all humans is our boats start rocking. Dr. Neha is excellent at this. She's the expert. How do you get people's boats to stop rocking? And as CEOs, our boats stop rocking pretty quickly. We get wind in our sails. We want to move forward. And I'm kind of using the Kaufman human potential metaphor here, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of a modern version of Maslow's hierarchy. And what it basically says is in times of uncertainty, we have to do two things. We have to stabilize the base of the boat. And that comes from psychological safety and belonging and so forth. But then to move through the change, we have to put wind in our sails, and that's the top of the boat. And the wind comes from purpose, conscious capitalism. It comes from love and belonging together as a team, conscious capitalism. And it comes from learning and growth. CEOs are excellent at that. We have huge sails. We're constantly catching the wind. What we have to do as leaders is recognize that that's not true for everybody. A lot of people need help to stabilize the ballast first, and they need help to recognize how to catch that wind, how to lean into the change in a way that's going to be safe and secure and get you to the other side that you want to go. You want to go on this change with us as CEOs. We often get so impatient, we get so excited, there's so much pressure on CEOs to adapt to the changing times with our businesses. AI, how are we going to incorporate generative AI? That we leave our people behind.
Mm.
And if you look at all of the recent research that just came out from Gartner, from McKinsey, and from MIT, we can dig into it. But the Uber thesis is, yeah, CEOs, we're running ahead, but if we don't bring our people with us on the
Mm.
ride, we are failing. We're failing to deliver on the return on investment that we're making in all of this new technology. So I'll pause, but we can dig now anywhere you want to dig.
Well,
Yeah.
Christine, I love what you're saying, because this idea around it's a shift in the way we think about us and our teams. It used to be that leaders, let's just say leaders across the organization, would have 10 or 15 people directly reporting to them, and then they would need to know and kind of navigate. Oh, what does so and so need? What's happening with so and so? What's what's everyone's career path? How can I be making sure everyone's motivated? All of these things. So it was like a 1 to 10 or 15. Okay, those leaders would complain to me regularly. They could never get their jobs done because more than 50% of their time was micromanaging or leading or figuring out interpersonal or personal issues for others. And now, this new era that we're in, there's no time for even them to do that for 50% of the time. They need everything they've got to manage this change, this ship that's the metaphor of the boat. And what needs to happen now is a flip where those 10 or 15 people manage one person, and it's themselves. And so that flip, I believe, is the empowerment of every individual to be able to take on this level of change, and every individual to know themselves. And as a doctor, why I'll say this is, what you're speaking about is so important because my biology is different than yours. What's in my comfort zone, my learning zone, my panic zone is different than what you, the CEO, have as your comfort zone, learning zone, and panic zone, which you described so eloquently. And if I don't know where I'm hitting my boundaries or my panic zone, how can I give you that information so that we can move together in sync? So now what's going to happen if people don't make this switch in understanding where they're focusing and empowering their people? That's the left behind that I was hearing when you were speaking.
A lot of people are being left behind, and this is why so many of the new generative AI projects that we're spending millions and in some cases billions of dollars on are not succeeding. If you look at the McKinsey and MIT research, they're not going forward, they're not delivering returns, and it's is because we're leaving the people behind. CEOs tend to be highly resilient. Timothy, you wouldn't be in your position if you weren't an exceptionally resilient, adaptable, resourceful human being. Neither would Neha, neither would I. Our companies are made up of thousands, tens of thousands of people who have very differing levels. Like you say, Neha, we're all in different places. And for most of the humans inside the company, there's 3 simultaneous change curves happening. So the one is the personal change. How is all of this affecting me and my job and the way I do my job? And there's a lot of uncertainty and fear around that. I'm
Mm.
afraid that you, Mr. or Mrs. CEO, are going to replace me, your human, with an AI agent. So my trust might be very low for management right now. So I've got this personal change happening. The team that I'm in is changing. Every single function in a company is being reimagined right now because of AI. In my company, we use AI. We are an AI agent. We're a AI product that delivers personal and professional development, but we use AI to create some of those experiences. So people in the company get concerned, and every function has to be reimagined. And then the strategy of every company is changing. We've gone from being a mobile app that focuses on gamified AI to being completely AI. The whole strategy of the company had to shift. Every company is going through that. And so now you've got 3 simultaneous change curves. People have a hard time with one, and there's 3 happening at the same time. So it's back on us as leaders to bring people along. And they can't come along if their boats are rocking, which means we have to stabilize. Stabilization happens when there's trust. When, like you say, Neha, we get them out of the panic zone, maybe not in the comfort zone because things are changing too rapidly. It's not going to
Mhm.
be the way it was, but we have to be together in the learning zone.
Mhm.
We have to be learning together. Many CEOs are out there making big assumptions about how generative AI could change their business. And we've seen some of them in the headlines. And this isn't helping the trust situation, by the way, but we're going to replace this whole group of people now with AI, and we're
Mhm.
doing these massive layoffs. And CEOs that aren't themselves every day making the change, playing with the technology, really understanding its strengths and weaknesses, it has a lot of phenomenal strengths, a lot of blind spots, a lot of weaknesses. In many cases, it's good at replacing a task, but it's not good at replacing a human.
Mhm.
And there's no court in the world that lets you blame the human or blame the machine when something goes wrong anyway. So you still have to have human oversight. So we can't get where we need and want to go as CEOs unless our people come along. Companies are still made up of people. They're only as good as the people. It's still the people that give the competitive advantage, not just the technology. And if we can't bring our people along on the journey, then we don't have a successful transformation. And the start of that is trust. It is the
Yeah.
principles that you teach. And it's how do we lean more into purpose? How do people lean more into purpose? Let the AI take away the redundant, but I'm doing the things that I'm best at that are meaningful, that have impact. And how do we anchor in trust so that everybody will go along?
So I like that. On the one hand, what we talk about is freedom within a framework, that now leaders have to create frameworks and then give people the freedom. And as you say, purpose, values are part of that framework. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. These are the behaviors that are okay and not okay. That anchors at one level. But then we've got this radical freedom thing going on. And as you say, building trust in a time when things are changing so quickly, I think it really requires a different way of thinking about the business. The decisions can't be made at the top and then filtered down anymore.
Right.
It's got to be much more of a give and take model where we're experimenting at the front end, but we're doing that within an
Mhm.
AI framework. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
curious, in your mind, how do you like real time develop leaders to do this stuff? Because it's not like we're pausing and we're going to say, okay, hit the pause button. We're going to take 12 months to develop our next generation of leaders.
Yeah.
It's happening real time.
Yeah.
And in your experience, how do we real time develop this new kind of leadership mindset?
Yeah, it's how and what. So, how do we do it at scale? And I know that you believe, as I do, that every person can be a leader. It's not a position, it's a practice, it's how you show up. And so, an unselfish plug here, a selfish plug for Xapa. It is about developing leaders at all levels of an organization. In fact, that's why we try to teach the principles of conscious capitalism. Dr. Neha even has a character in Xapa World, and she teaches people how to think about getting out of their comfort zone and staying in the learning zone and the importance of doing that. Doing leadership at scale has always been so difficult. But I agree with you, Timothy. It's more important than ever because there are certain things, even after a successful generative AI transformation, that only the humans can do, and that we need our humans to do during and after this AI transformation or whatever transformation is happening inside your company. And these are things like business judgment, ethics, decision making, how to innovate, how to identify problems. Generative AI and other technologies are really good at solving certain kinds of problems, but they are not able to take the place of the human in those areas. Yet we don't teach that very often in companies anymore. We used to do that decades ago. A lot of that has been cut. So, how are we teaching how to identify the problem, how to set and recognize business context? Even if you're working with a fabulous generative AI agent, you have to provide the context and the problem identification. It will give you lots of fantastic choices. You, as the human, still have to make the decision. You have to apply the morals, the judgment. You have to decide based on the purpose of the company, the values of the company. We're training all of these models every day, yet if we're not training them in a way that reflects the company's values and purpose, it will go off the rails from what we intend, and then we end up in front of, juries and in front of judges, and things go really wrong. We've got companies in bankruptcy because of rogue AI. So it's really important that if we want the AI to accurately reflect our company's values and purpose and do its mission, the people themselves that are training it and using it and overseeing it also have to be trained in our company's mission, vision, values, and culture.
Very
Yeah, and I think
cool.
something that you just spoke about earlier, Christine, if people are listening right now and thinking to themselves, "Okay, I understand things are changing fast. I need to build trust and psychological safety in my organization. How do I do that? Because now I need the tactical." And one of the things that I would say, I'm gonna jump off the boat metaphor that you were using earlier. When you're speaking about the boat rocking, really what you're talking about is someone's biology. You're talking about their physiology. You're talking about how their heart is racing, their stomach's turning, and they're not going to speak up in a meeting where they don't feel safe. They're not going to give you the innovative idea when they've been shut down for making a mistake. So there's a real practical angle to what you're speaking about.
And can I just add one thing?
Sure.
And they're not going to lean into the change
Mm-mm.
that you need them to make if they are scared and they don't trust.
That's
And
right.
so the resistance will either be active, if you're really lucky as a CEO and you have resistance, it will be active resistance where you can see it.
Yep.
The most insidious is the passive
Mm.
resistance,
Hmm.
which keeps companies from moving forward and creates failure, which we are seeing if you look at the MIT research, over 90% of the generative AI projects started by companies are failing to deliver any reasonable return. And there is a lot of money, time, and energy being spent on this, and futures are being bet on it.
Hmm.
It's not the technology that is the failure. If you look at McKinsey's report, only 20% of success comes from the technology. 80% comes from the people. If the people are not leaning in, if the biology is holding them back,
Hmm.
then we as CEOs can't achieve these goals that we are so desperate to achieve right now.
So the question then becomes, where do we begin? Right? Where do we begin if this is the truth? This is the place that we're in. And I think, first of all, people understanding a little bit, trust and psychological safety work together, and yet they are defined slightly differently. Okay. The three of us, let's say we're a company. Okay. We're a company. We want to make this happen. I can trust Timothy, but not feel safe to speak up in front of you, Christine, in a meeting. I can trust that if I tell Timothy something, he won't tell you, but I might not feel the psychological safety in a meeting to speak up and share a new idea. I might feel like a fool. I might have been, passed over, not heard, whatever it is. So first, people need to understand a little bit. There's a difference between trust and psychological safety. Psychological safety is literally us creating the environment where people can make mistakes. They're encouraged to speak up and right. And even if I do, I might not trust that someone else will follow through. But the way the group dynamic works is so important, right? And ideally you have both because that's going to have us be able to bring it up and follow through and have synergistic power there. The second thing I'd say is this is an opportunity. This is a huge opportunity because maybe some of the leaders understand this, but if your organization, we could bet most people don't know how to handle their biology at this level, pace of change. It's an opportunity for you to do it in some ways together. This is the reset, the ultimate reset that if we're going to talk about a different structure of an organization, maybe we aren't just doing the executive team and then doing gravity rounds to the next level of leaders, next level of leaders. Maybe the way we speed this up is everybody's learning something new together. There's a practical approach, right? Now, that's an unusual way of thinking in an organization. For the last 25 years that I've been doing this, people bring me in and they start at the top and they have me do gravity rounds and start. It takes 5 years and I get myself through the organization. We don't have 5 years. So the question is, how can we think innovatively? How can we have practical applications, use this as an opportunity? And how do we now do this faster, but not for the sake of efficiency, but for effectiveness?
Mm.
To me, it's all about scale. I mean, this is the whole reason why, after selling my last company, I started Xapa. I believe fully in the principles of conscious capitalism. I learned, from you and Raj, from you, Neha and Raj, about all the things you teach on communication and how to listen and how to create agreements. And when I went through the program as a CEO, it really helped me, but it was impossible to scale it to my entire organization.
Sure.
And this is what creates change. And we're trying to move faster than ever before. So we can't approach this change management in the same way anymore. We have to be able to scale it. Now, of course, Xapa would say, give everybody a Xapa an agent because we've Zapified all of this material and we can teach them about trust and we can teach them about conscious capitalism, even how to use the basics of AI and what it means for their job and resilience. And it doesn't matter, though, what your particular tool is. What matters is that you have a way to have the same terminology and frameworks working top to bottom in the organization. People are anchored and understand the purpose of the company, that they understand the behaviors that support the values of the company, because, by the way, those behaviors get amplified with AI. So if you've got bad behaviors in the company, you get bad behavior at scale with AI. If you have good behavior, good value, good foundation in the company, you can scale that with AI. We need our people to move more quickly without the foundations of resilience and trust and collaboration and communication. We can't do what you're talking about, Timothy, which as CEOs we need to do right now, which is to push innovation and decision making down and out in the org. The
Mm.
people closer to the problems have to have more authority to make decisions. We as CEOs have to have confidence that they understand the context of our business, the mission, the vision, the values, the purpose, and that they have good business judgment and can make good decisions, good
Mm.
prioritization decisions. If we don't teach that and we don't reinforce it at scale, we as CEOs don't have the confidence to push down and out, which means the organization not only can't move
Mm.
quickly, it can't move forward. Forget
Yeah.
quickly. So
Yeah.
this is the conundrum I think has to be unraveled. The old ways of, let's just have some offsites and a few of the leaders get together and we hear from amazing people for a day and we feel energized. That experience, fantastic as it is, now has to be scaled to every human every day, every week. These are constant reinforcements that have to happen at scale.
I love that, and I think that explains why 90% of these efforts are not delivering value. And if I start to pull on a few threads here and sort of pull it together, one of the things is that we're going through this unprecedented time where we need to be constantly innovating and pushing more of that experimentation and innovation closer to our customers and closer to where the real action happens. Simultaneously, we've got to be creating environments with higher degrees of trust and higher degrees of psychological safety than ever. Because even as we're doing this innovation, the constant background noise is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is about loss of jobs. It's about radical change, and we're going to wipe out the middle class. We're going to wipe out a lot of the people involved in working our core processes at work. So all of this is happening all at one time, and we've not seen anything like this before. So on the one hand, it's not surprising that 90% of these efforts are in essence failing. And yet, as leaders, we've got to be able to at two levels of what I've heard here. Christine, I think that what Xapa does and what you're doing is really important around just-in-time learning, in a sense, just-in-time support from my frontline leaders on a number of skills they need to have in order to build trust and psychological safety, while at the same time anchoring everybody back to purpose and values. You know, Other things may change, our purpose and our values don't. These
Mhm.
things are not changing. And third piece Neha, that you bring in is how those top 30 leaders show up in the business right
Mhm.
now
Yeah.
when they themselves are feeling fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Well,
And
and in many cases, they know not of which they speak.
Mhm.
To me, there's a really big dichotomy happening where we see leaders
yeah,
purporting that this change. Everything needs to change. We're going to use AI to replace, like you say, all these layoffs. And there's a reason for the fear. It's because there's evidence in the market of what I'll call misplaced decision making. We see leaders and executives, boards making assumptions about what the technology can do in advance of seeing real evidence that it can do
mm,
that.
mm,
And so, I think one, CEOs have to get a lot more grounded in really using the technology every day. I do, and I have a very clear sense of what it is good and not good at. I set a goal in my company that we need to be able to create content 1,000 times faster than what we do today. Now, in the last 2.5 months, we now have 400% We have a 400% improvement. We're still way short of my 1,000% improvement, but, we've got 4 times
Yeah.
better than what we were before, and every day but I can go in, and when my team comes back and says, "We can't do 1,000 yet, but now we can do 4." We're at 4 on our way to 1,000. I understand what the limitations are because 'cause I'm in it every day also. If I didn't have that understanding and my team comes back to me and says, you set a goal of 1,000, we're at 4." Do I fire them all? Do I shoot the messenger?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how do we bring everybody along? So what Gartner recently showed is that we spend 28 times the amount of money right now as companies training AI agents as we do training the humans that have to use,
Mm.
deploy, and oversee them. Back to the court of law, you can't blame the machine when something goes wrong. Gartner showed that if we spent just 10 cents on the dollar
Mm.
investing in the humans that are still the
Mm.
foundation, back to McKinsey, 80% of the success is based on whether the humans go along with for the ride or not. It's not the technology. If we spent just 10 cents on the dollar, we'd unlock another 4.4 trillion in productivity gains.
Yeah.
So there 4.4 trillion is still a lot of money for all of our companies.
Yeah.
All we
Yeah.
have to do is pay attention to our humans and make sure they're coming along for the ride. That seems like it's very much in our control at a time when many CEOs don't feel like they have control. All of
Mhm.
this
Mm.
stuff is happening to us. A handful
Mhm.
of scientists in Silicon Valley are disrupting our lives, rocking our
Mhm.
boats. This change is happening to us. And
Yeah.
if we step back, we're like, you know what? We actually have huge control over 80% of this change, which is the humans in our care. So if we
Yeah.
just pay attention to them, we're way ahead of the game. We come out on top, but we have to invest in the humans.
Christine, I've been speaking for a while, and last year everything was about AI and the newness of it and the applications of it. Now, as I'm getting asked to speak, like in February, next February, so 6, 8 months from now, you know what the topic is? Leading with heart. Everything is about empathic leadership. So, as quickly as AI is shifting, this piece that you're speaking to is even as leaders, we may be fearful of what's to come. It may be coming at us too fast, but this marriage of how we play with the technology, use it, think about it at scale is as important as us leading with empathy. That we are
Mm.
not scaring people and telling them we're going to lay off all these people. That maybe we should be thinking in a conscious capitalism framework. One way would be, yes, I could let go of a bunch of people and maintain my productivity. That's one way. But when we think of how everybody matters and everybody wins, what if we thought about, I'll keep all my people and we will 10x our productivity? Like, there's new
That's where
ways to
I'm
think
at.
about, yeah, that's where you're at. And I just want to say that why it's so important. So I'm going to be leading a workshop at the experience at the summit, the Conscious Capitalism Summit. This is where we're going to go deep, give you practical tools, help you understand, let you bring up what's happening for you, and then customize it. And I think this is a really important discussion because together we will do what all the three of us have just done, which is expand perspective, go deep, and personalize. You'll know what's resonating for you and what's not. And I think being with a group of thought leaders, we're so lucky that we get to do it regularly and we get to do it together. But I think it's really what's important about us coming together.
One of the things I've been speaking regularly on is the topic of what's left for humans in a post-AI world. And there is a lot left for the humans. And a lot of it is very rooted in the principles of conscious capitalism because it is about judgment, it's about negotiation, it's decision making, it's finding the right problems to solve, it's doing the prioritization, and then it's all the human interconnection. We still have to serve our customers. We still have to resolve conflicts between people. That's still an important part of business. And these are the things that only the humans can do. But we often don't help our people learn to do them well. to reflect well the values and the character and the purpose we have as an organization. So we have to start paying much more attention to that.
I love it. I love it. What we've got here is we've got, on the one hand, Christine, who's got an organization that's dedicated to being able to scale using the latest technology to help us do that. And we have Neha bringing us back to some of the core basic biology of how humans operate. And that, I think, is the message that we want everybody to hear. In an age of radical change, human people-focused businesses that are purpose-driven, stakeholder-oriented, and led by conscious leaders are going to be more important than ever, because creating that culture of trust, engagement, and psychological safety is what's going to enable you to use the technology to go faster and better than anyone else. So weirdly, conscious capitalism is more important than ever in this period.
100% believe that. That technology is going to be an equalizer. We're all going to have access to the same technologies. So the only real differentiation goes back to the principles of conscious capitalism and how you are leading, how your people are showing up. But the weird dichotomy is the companies who have the highest trust, where people are the most engaged, they're going to get through the change most quickly. And the companies that are doing all these layoffs and trying to force AI in, they're trying to move really quickly. They are the most likely to fail and not make it through the change at all.
There's the business case for conscious capitalism.
100%.
Christine, on that note, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for your wisdom and thoughtfulness on this topic, because it is so timely and it's all real time. Thank you for what Xapa's doing. Thank you, Christine, for your perspective. Neha, as always, you bring the heart and the soul to the conversation. And that's what's really, at the end, it's about being authentic. It's about building those authentic relationships. And if you don't build it with yourself, it's pretty darn hard to build it with others. So thank you for bringing that perspective. Appreciate it enormously. And I will look forward to what's going to unfold as we work on the future of the conscious enterprise and how all of these elements come together to make conscious capitalism even more relevant and impactful than it's been. Thank you both so much.
And I can't wait to be with you at the summit. So see
And I
you
want
all
to
soon.
thank you, Timothy, because what you're doing at CCI and what the Institute is doing and the importance of the conscious capitalism movement for this time in history cannot be understated. And you've taken on such a big and important project, and it matters in the world right now.
Thank you. Once in a generational shift
It
that we're
is.
undergoing, and this will be a tipping point that we'll all look back on and say, what side were you on
Yep.
when
It's
all
it's
of
a
this happened?
generational leadership moment, 100%.
Thank you for your lovely comments. I really appreciate that. And we look forward to exploring more about the mindset of leaders and what they need to bring to the workplace to thrive for themselves and in their role with Neha when she joins us in Cincinnati on the 25th of September. And so please go over to consciouscapitalism.org/future event for more information on the Cincinnati event. And we look forward to having you join us as we explore the future of conscious capitalism and why it's more important than ever in this time of radical uncertainty. See you there.